I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Donan, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch
podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans of all ages, welcome to the Double Clutch podcast. And of course, this week, it's me hosting, it's Huw Hopkins, which means that we are focusing on the WNBA. We've had a good run of shows so far. We started with Isabel Harrison and Carly Samuelson, and my good man Josh Coyne, he helped out and interviewed Brian Agler last week. That was a really interesting conversation. Brian was at the gym and they had a sort of chat off at the side of the court. So it was really interesting hearing a head coach's perspective, and we've got another one coming up for you soon with another head coach, so I'm not going to spoil just yet. But this week we do have Imani McGee-Stafford. Imani, she is a center for the Atlanta Dream, and she's actually the sister of Javale McGee, who of course plays in the NBA as well. So we get a good conversation. She's actually at a camp at the moment, at a kids camp. So she's got kids running around her. So I apologize for the interference from kids screaming in the background for the first few minutes of the pod. But after that, we get into a good discussion across a lot of different topics, not just for the Atlanta Dream, but also her career going over to China, and being cut for the first time in her career, which she found particularly difficult. But we talk a little bit also about mental health and also about the upcoming collective bargaining agreement between the WNBA players and the league. It's a good 20-minute conversation where we jump over a couple of different areas, and we're going to get straight to it.
I love this accent. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get over it.
That's cool. You're probably not used to British accents all that much then, are you? Have you been over here before?
I have never. Well, I've been in the airport.
So thanks for arranging to talk to me. I know you've got a busy schedule at the moment, especially with training camp kicking off. Has that already started, or is it starting next week, or what?
It starts on Sunday.
I've been, following what you've been doing sort of in the off-season, going through China and stuff last year, and that being a bit of a disappointment, but you must be pretty hyped to get back on a US professional court.
Yes, of course I am. I'm super excited about it. It's just nice to be back in organized basketball with my teammates. So it's just exciting.
You're playing with the Atlanta Dream last year, and the team had a pretty incredible run. You were second best record in the league and made it to the final four teams, and you possibly could have gotten further, but your second leading scorer, Angel, she went down at the start of the playoffs. How gutting was that situation for the team?
Seeing anybody get hurt is always just terrible. And then when it's your leading scorer, that obviously just makes it hurt a little bit more. Luckily for us, we had a very balanced team, so we were able to still keep it kind of going. And we really wish we had her so we could have made that championship run. Because, you just, all you can replay is the what ifs and the what ifs if you would have had your full roster, right?
Yeah. A few months ago, it seems like Angel wasn't making any guarantees, but she was hoping to be back at the start of the season. Have you seen her yet? Have you caught up with her? What's the latest?
I'm actually at her camp right now, which is why you hear little screaming children in the background. So her and Aja Durr had a skills camp today, and I stopped by to say hello and speak to the kids, apparently.
And how's she looking out there?
She's on schedule, just getting ready and taking her time with it. Injuries hit a little different after 30.
Yeah, right. So do you think she's expecting to be back for the start of the season at the moment, or?
No, she won't be back for the start of the season.
But the team also had Tiffany Hayes. She's turned into one of the best players in the league. And I think with all the weapons that other teams are adding, if you look at LA, they've got Candice Necker and Shanae and whoever else might join that team in the future, maybe. You've got a lot of teams over there vying for MVP on the same team, and then you got Brianna Stewart out this season and Diana Taurasi out.
Yeah, which is another thing that just hurt.
All of these top elite players are sort of injured or Maya Moore's taking a sabbatical. So do you do you rate Tiffany's chances of being like an MVP, or even Angel's chances of being MVP if she gets back early enough?
Angel won't be an MVP just because she won't. You can't be MVP with half a season. It's just not possible. Just the way the media works. Tiffany, it's a good time. Like, hopefully, it's a wide open, like you were saying. So it'll be exciting for her to have the opportunity and see what we can do. But all of that depends on how good we are as a unit, you know? No one cares about you being the best player on a terrible team.
No, but, if you guys pick up where you left off last year, I think, you're going to be in a decent state. What do you make of Atlanta's chances this year?
I think we only want to build, right? We've tasted it, so it's only up from here. We have to continue to do the same and just continue to at least make it to the semifinals. That's our goal.
You've got one of the best coaches in the league, and in my opinion, to be able to take you there. Nikki Collen came on. Was it last year or the year before that she?
Yes, last year.
So, she managed to unlock a bunch of different things for the team last season. Especially with Angel going down late, and it felt like the team came together well as a unit. What is it about Nikki that managed to, take the team to that next level, do you think?
I think she's just a great mind. Like, her defensive principles, her defensive schemes are unmatched. She's super brilliant in that regard. And I think she's a joy to be around. And it's nice to have that kind of camaraderie within the team, and the coaching staff is included in that.
Following some of your videos and comments, over the year, and on your personal YouTube page, which actually I think is one of the cooler YouTube vlog accounts.
Well, thank you.
Give actually real insight rather than it just being a marketing account, But I really enjoyed that. But it felt like, at times you sort of felt a bit frustrated with your role in the system, and understandably you're a solid defensive player, but how did Nikki and the coaching staff sort of help you overcome that throughout the season?
I think as a player you're always frustrated when you're not the go-to player. That's just like the ego of us all. But I think they did a very good job of making sure, even though I was only playing 10 minutes, that I was involved and I felt like I was necessary and a part of the team. So obviously this season, I hope that's not the same reality for me. But I can only prove my worth and hope that they see it as well.
Well, I mean, it will be interesting because the team, I think, did it trade away its first draft pick this year? In the draft, and I mean you have got players coming in. You got Marie Gulick, who's similar to you in some ways. She's a big player who can block shots and had a solid post game. But I think if you two can get some playing time together, I think that's going to be a scary defensive lineup for pretty much any team.
I would have to guard the 4, but yeah.
It'd be an interesting combination. Let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu. As the Europe's official NBA online store, it has everything you need to support your favourite team, from flags to socks to on-court gear. And our listeners, Double Clutch listeners, they get 15% off any order using the code DCPOD15. That's DCPOD15 at checkout. That offer there excludes clearance and outlet items, but still, what are you waiting for? They're all the freshest gear, all 15% off. So make sure you head to NBAstore.eu and use DCPOD15 now. It couldn't be simpler. But now back to my conversation with Imani McGee-Stafford. In some of your videos, you've been quite personal and going deep on certain things. The WNBA this year is 23 years old, I think it is, and you're part of a generation now that's sort of like a first generation that had, mothers who might have been in the league, and fathers who might have played in the NBA. Do you remember much about your mother Pamela playing, in Sacramento and Los Angeles in the late 90s?
I really only remember I don't remember the games at all, but I remember just like the other stuff, like being in Jet magazine with my mom, like being around, like growing up with Lisa Leslie as a family friend, you know what I mean? Like Tina Thompson as a family friend, like all these crazy history basketball players have been in my backyard my entire life, like Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper, all these people have watched me grow up and have kind of been at my disposal my whole life. So, like, I just left a gym with Kim Hampton, who's telling me stories about when I was a kid and her playing with my mom and stuff like that. So I've always kind of had that luxury of knowing these amazing Hall of Fame basketball players as family. Just knowing that there's a professional league. Like, me and my brother asked my mom in an interview one time, like, why did she play basketball? Because she was the first year that they had college scholarships for basketball. Like, she was Title IX. So we were like, what were you playing basketball for? Like, you didn't know that you can get a scholarship. You didn't know that you could play in college and then probably play in the pros. Like, none of this stuff existed for you. You didn't have the internet. Like, so what was the reason of you doing it, right? And, like, we realized that, like, we both grew up with professional leagues. Like, I grew up knowing that there was a WNBA at some point, or that I can go overseas. And, like, the people that started this just did it off the faith. Like, they did it off the love of the game.
It is pretty incredible how far it's come. And, like, you do see, I mean, it's more prevalent in the men's game because the NBA has just been around longer than the WNBA, so you have had multiple generations, but you do see it with players like, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who have had fathers in the league, and they have been able to sort of, I guess, make an easier transition into the professional league. Do you think that's helped you at all? Because I know I can only imagine. Actually, I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying I know, because I know nothing about playing professionally. But I can only imagine that actually playing professionally on times can, it can be quite lonely and stuff, and especially for women who play much more of their time internationally. So did your mother having that grounding, and you're from a family of athletes now, did you having that understanding help your transition into the league and into playing overseas?
Definitely. I think just being able to ask questions, like I said, like, I have Hall of Famers that I grew up with and, like, could touch, right, growing up. And so I think, like, when I was getting drafted, I was asking Tina Thompson, Fran Harris, Lisa Leslie, all these questions about agents and what to do and how to do it. And I was just thinking, like, what do normal people do? Like, I have all these people at my disposal, and I get to use them and figure these things out. But normal people just kind of Google it, I guess. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it definitely is a difference. And just being able to understand the mindset and the work ethic needed, because I have people that have been in my exact shoes,
Yeah, definitely. And, it's especially a lot of those names you're listing off, they are legends of the game. And so that's still something for you to aspire to. Like you were saying earlier, you only played 10 minutes per game last year, so you were more of a role player, which is a bit different for you. But, it also knowing how those other women got to the level that they got to, that sort of helps you reach that next level.
Yeah. And I mean, it kind of sucks having my mother as a mother, just because she's been amazing her entire life. Like, my mom has literally never been bad. So she's not the best when it comes to giving you pep talks. She's like, I can't relate. But on the flip side, my brother is the exact opposite, right? Like, he's kind of gone through a rejuvenation in his career in terms of going from lottery pick, playing 30 minutes, whatever, on a terrible team, to being a role player on a championship team. And now finally getting his chance to be a starter and get kind of the just due that he deserves with the Lakers. But he's kind of had that roller coaster of a career where he's kind of touched every portion of what it is to be a pro athlete and what your career looks like. I've been able to kind of ask him in terms of navigating this process.
Yeah, his career as well has been fascinating. Like you said, it's gone from being a big player on a terrible team to being a slightly smaller cog on a an incredible team, and now he's sort of finding that, I guess, third act as part of his career. It must have been like quite a competitive household growing up between you two. Have you got any stories of you and him playing like 1-on-1 with your mum sort of cheering you both on or something?
My mom used to play my brother. I'm too young to have had my mother when she had good knees. Because we're 7 years apart. So my mom used to play my brother, but by the time I was able to play basketball, she was like retired. But me and my brother and my cousins used to always be in the yard playing basketball, and it got super heated. And I used to be able to say I was the best kid until recently. Then he started winning championships, so now like he's undoubtedly the best kid. But before that, I was the better kid.
I mean, you never know what's going to happen this year. How do you feel about Atlanta's chances this season going into it? Because you have come off a very good year, but you've got a great opportunity, I think, to really take it to the next level, especially if you can get Angel back sooner rather than later.
Honestly, I feel great, especially just with like the teams changing, people being injured, people being out. Like, it's very wide open. So it's unfortunate to say that people being injured or taking sabbaticals is an opportunity, but that's really what it is. Like, it's a professional league,
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to briefly ask you about your time working abroad. I mean, I know you struggled this year in China, but are there any elements of playing over there that you were able to bring back, and sort of say, okay, this helped me over there, and it's going to help me even more in the American League?
I love China. I love playing there. I love the food. I love the culture. All of it. I just didn't work out this season, but I think one thing that overseas basketball gives you is just the ability to have confidence in yourself, because the hard part about being a pro athlete, especially when you're a role player, is keeping your confidence high and knowing that you're capable of more, even if that's not the role you have on this team. And when you go overseas, you're like Jesus, like you're everything.
And I was speaking to Isabel Harrison a few weeks ago, and she was saying she did a stint in China, and how there's a much greater focus on sort of fitness over there, in the sense that you're just constantly running and constantly working out even before you get into like gameplay situations. They're running you into the ground. Like, is that the same experience for you?
I felt like my knees rolled, but I guess you could say I was in better shape too.
So I guess we're going to see you with a lot more ice packs on your knees after games this year then.
Hopefully not, but if you do, you know why.
Cool. Well, I don't want to keep you from the camp for too much longer, but there's one thing we've done a couple of these WNBA podcasts now, and there's one thing I've been asking a few of the different players and coaches that we've been talking to, and it's about the CBA at the end of this year. I just want to sort of try and get a pulse between players and coaches and other people, how they're feeling about it, because I feel like it's going to be an undercurrent to the season. It's never going to be the main storyline, but we recently saw the NBA PR Twitter account sort of disputing how much WNBA players were getting paid.
They weren't disputing how much we were getting paid. They were changing the conversation, because compensation includes benefits, which includes our housing, which includes our health care, which includes bonuses for players that make MVP or make the playoffs, whatever. That's a sum of all of those things. That's what compensation is. Salary is strictly the money you are paid for your services. We have consistently been talking about salary. So the NBA PR tweet was to change the conversation.
Right. And so how do you feel about them adjusting that angle then and taking this route? Because it certainly feels like they're trying to establish a bit more, or at least have their say more in the conversation?
I think that's their job. Like that's their job. Their job is to do what they're doing, and our job is to negotiate what we want, and that's what happens in these things.
And I'm not sure how involved you are in the Players Association, but is there anything that you've discussed with anyone else that you certain things you might not want to tell me, or be able to tell me? But
I used to be a player rep, and once I got traded to Atlanta, I was no longer the player rep. And while I could be involved if I really wanted to, it's a lot of work being a player rep, so I was fine with it.
Fair enough. But are there any things that you would like to see on the table going into the discussions? Are there any areas that you think need to be the main focus?
I think that our union and our union rep and our president, Huw McCoughtry, is doing a great job at making sure that everything that we need touched is being touched, and continually checking in with us about things that we want to add and things we want to talk about. So I stay in my lane.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I appreciate that. And I guess just more generally, how do you think you personally and other players in the league are going to be able to avoid? Because I imagine, like I said earlier, it's going to be a sort of undercurrent storyline throughout the year. How do you feel you're going to avoid the distraction of getting caught, drawn into those conversations like I'm trying to do to you now?
I think that I think we just leave it to the people that have the platform to talk about that. And I think also during the season, hopefully our games are far more exciting than this conversation.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure they will be. We're doing our fair share of trying to grow the league over on this side of the Atlantic, because personally for me, it's one of the more exciting leagues in the world, and I can't wait to get started. So I imagine most of you guys, most of you players, you're going to be feeling the same.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I think every time you get to play in this league, it's not only a privilege but a blessing. So we all kind of hold that feeling, and we still got to make teams. So
yeah. I mean, I guess one of the hardest parts is coming up in the next 2 or 3 weeks, right? Where where people are making selections and things like that, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. We'll be following along, and we really appreciate you sort of taking out 20 minutes just to chat to us on over the other side of the world, it feels like sometimes. But really appreciate your time, Imani. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
So again, big thank you to Imani McGee-Stafford. It was great chatting to her, and make sure you're paying attention to her this season, because she may have only got around 10 minutes last year per game, but I'm seeing that's going to increase this coming season. And the Dream, I reckon they're out to cause some damage in the league this year. If you could also make sure that you get on to all of the pod players, so the podcast player that you're listening to right now, make sure you go ahead and give us 5 stars, and share it around, tweet at us. We're always up for a good WNBA conversation. And of course, make sure that you do head over to nbastore.eu and use DCPod15 at the checkout to get any additional 15% discount off any of your orders. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you again next time.